Tyler, you all set? Yep. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Franklin Planning Board, June 30th, 2025 meeting. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom. The Zoom call-in number is 312-626-6799 with a meeting number of 848-718-34814. We're going to take care of some general business first. If I can go to a bond reduction for Acorn Estates, J Victory Lane. If I could go to Amy, please. Department of Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So they've filed a final Form H, is also known as Acorn Hill Estates. It's a certificate of completion and a final as-built. They're looking for the final Form H to be approved, reduction of the bond, and as well as street acceptance recommendation to the town council.
Okay. Mike, go to you, DPW. You happy with everything? I guess there was, one sediment basin had to be cleaned, I guess.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Beta did the construction inspection out there. They did the review. There's some, the developer cleaned out the detention basin, mowed it down, replaced the riprap, did some good work there, and everything was satisfied with all that work. The only outstanding issue out there that was on the original design for this, part of the drainage stormwater design was to have rain gardens on the private properties. There was a total of 7 of them. And I guess over the past several years, past year or two, I don't know what had happened, but I think 4 out of the 7 have been filled in and eliminated, so they don't exist anymore. They're on private property. There was no deed restriction on that to really make sure they stayed in place. My only concern is those were part of the original stormwater design in addition to that stormwater basin, so now with those gone, I don't know what effect, if any, that's going to have on the basin. So that's one concern. I think the easy thing may be just to, if the original engineer's still around, have them reassess the drainage design without those to see what that actually impact that has on the drainage basin. If it's gonna be undersized, or if it might be a minimal increase where it really doesn't make that much of a difference. But I don't know, so that's the only thing I'm concerned about, especially in the position of the town. We'd have to take that over in the position in the future.
Okay.
So.
Did we not have easements granted for them? I thought we were in the past.
I think there was talk about it during the process, but I went back, I didn't see anything in the deeds.
Okay.
So there's nothing in there if there was meant to be. I don't know if it just didn't happen, or if it just wasn't intended or not.
Okay.
But that's one of the problems with some of these when we have the private rain gardens on some
Yep.
sites. We've done it on 1 or 2 other subdivisions in town
Yep.
too, and I think there were deed restrictions on those other ones.
Okay.
It gets a little tricky when there's no recourse that we have to actually have them
Correct.
installed.
Okay, okay. Matt, are you on?
It would be
What-
Gary representing Matt.
Okay.
He did jump on, I let him in, but then we lost him.
And I think Gary was too involved in this one specific. I was talking to Matt last week too.
Yep.
I know he's on vacation.
Oh, okay. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
Matt is
Oh,
on vacation.
there's
this
Gary.
week, so-
No, I'm here.
There you
Gary.
are, great.
Gary.
No, actually, Matt had the exact same thing that Mike had mentioned relative to the fact that 2 of the rain gardens had disappeared, had been filled in by the owners, and unfortunately, the subdivision owner didn't maintain an easement. But the only thing that Matt had relative to any of the changes that were going to be made was the issue of sedimentation in the basin. He recommended that the outfall or the inlet be cleaned up a little bit with the riprap. There was a little bit of sediment in there that needed to be cleaned up. But other than that, that was all he had.
Mr. Chairman, to Gary's point too, the developer did do that. I drove by today, and that has been taken care of already. As far as the riprap, they dug that out and cleaned it up and put fresh
Okay.
riprap down. So that's all set.
All right, good. I guess I'll go to the board first for a comment. Mark, any comments?
No, Mike answered my question, so I'm all set. Thank
Chris?
you.
No comments, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Jay?
Negligible impact from the lack of stormwater system in the neighborhood, or the impact of the stormwater system in the neighborhood?
That's the whole point. I don't know what the impact will be without those rain gardens or not, though. It might be worth just going through the analysis one more time without that storage to see what the impacts actually are.
Yeah.
That'd be my recommendation.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Same, I'd like to see that. I don't feel comfortable releasing the money.
Yeah, sure. Go
So,
ahead.
don't disagree that I'd like to see that reviewed as well. However, I guess my only question would be if it was on private property and there was no deed or easement, how do we enforce something that can actually be done? And how do you enforce asking the applicant who wants the bond released to go and have this done, when we really don't have any ability to enforce that?
Not on private property, no.
Right.
So my recommendation would be update the analysis, see what the actual impact is. It might be negligible, or it's minimal, so it might be okay. If not, maybe there's things that can be done to the existing drainage basin, increase storage maybe. There might be other options to actually redesign that a little bit to maybe make some improvements there, or find a way to increase storage somewhere else. I'm not sure. But on private property, to your point, I don't think those rain gardens are coming back because they're private property now, so.
So if we do have them do an analysis, and it comes back saying that something needs to be done, where are we? Nothing can be done, is what I'm hearing, right?
Something may be able to be done, we don't know, but at the same time, it might be something where if nothing can be done, I'm not sure where we are at that point, but then we should at least know before the town takes it over.
Gotcha, okay, so they don't have to accept
Do the street acceptance and
street
accept the drainage
acceptance
basin
until
and
that's
positions
taken
with
care
it.
of. Yeah, okay, then there we go, that's the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Jen? Good?
Yeah, I mean, I
Right.
don't wanna see the town
Right.
take ownership of
Okay.
something.
Yeah. If
So
you
I-
think the recourse is that you don't accept the street until that gets taken care of, then I feel more comfortable saying we have something to hang our hat on.
Okay, but now we have the outstanding bond, though, that's the only thing that's balanced.
How much is it?
Would you,
18?
Amy, would we want to hold the 1,000 for the Mylars and then 5,000 just to cover for the infiltration basins, but yet still?
I think.
Or do we want to wait until the analysis comes back? I don't want to hold them up, but I also want to make sure it's done correctly.
18,000. I think we're at the point where we may need to just hold that because it's 18,000. If it was a lot more, I'd say release some of it. I'm not sure how much the analysis is going to cost. It could be around that amount, it could be lower
Yep.
or higher. That we might want to hold on to that,
Okay.
just in case.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
If you could just approach the chair, please, and just introduce yourself for record, please.
Michael Curazzola.
Mike, what's the opportunity of having your engineer do an analysis if we continue this in 2 weeks? Do you think he can produce something for the town to
Yeah,
be
we-
satisfied?
Yeah,
All right,
possibly.
so- All right, so everybody comfortable with that? We'll make a continuation until July 14th.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mike, it just kind of hit me. You said that some of the wells were on private property, or whatever the basins.
Rain
Are the rain basins, are the others also on private property and could be filled in the future?
So there were, I counted 7 total, 4 of them were filled in, so the other ones could be filled in. I would recommend doing the analysis, just assuming they're all gone.
Sure.
Just in case they do get filled in,
Right.
because they were in place and those deeds already exist, there's no restrictions on them, so.
I think worst case scenario thinking is,
Exactly.
yeah,
All
okay.
right, so make a continuation until July 14th. Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if you can make that happen, we'll get it squared away with you. Okay, thank you. Okay, next item of business would be the continuation of the street acceptance for J Victory Lane. I'll make a motion to continue that until the July 14th meeting as well. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next item of business, this would be a covenant release for Partridge Farms Phase 1. Amy, if I could go to you, Department of Planning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a long outstanding subdivision that was built, developed, completed, done a long time ago. So this comes up every once in a while where they find out a lot was not released from a covenant. So they're just here for selling the house. They, on a title search, they found out this was not released, so it's just releasing it. It's completely complete. I don't even know if we own the streets, we might, I don't even know. But, so it's just to allow the lot release so they can close on their house.
Okay, we've had these in the past too, yep. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Amy, is it just one lot? Just a-
Just one more.
They did propose, so they do have it listed, it has 79 Hancock Street for the covenant release. It was part of Phase 1, so right now we're just releasing 79 Hancock Road because that's what the covenant release says.
To make a motion to release 79 Hancock Road from Partridge Farms Phase 1.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The applicant's here, thank you. Amy, is there a way to determine how many are out there unless they do?
It's something that,
Purchase and
with this
sales and sales
subdivision
each
being
time.
so old, we
Yeah.
don't go research them all. We basically rely on
Some of the attorneys.
a
get it,
homeowner or a sale or something. It's funny, you could have all lots released and have one or two that aren't.
Yep.
They noticed it was a phase, but they specifically asked for that lot, so,
Okay.
that was the one that the board voted on tonight.
Yep, yep. No, we've had them in the past, I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item of business would be, this will be for partial Form H for 70, 72, 88, and 94 East Central Street. If I could go to Amy, Department of Planning, please, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a site located in center of town. So 7072 is already built. It's really more for 80 and 94. I did find out they're actually giving an address of 90. So that might come up in the future. So they'll actually have their own address there. That was approved back in April 25, 2022 for a 17 unit residential building. So they're here for a partial Form H. Beta's been out there, have provided a report of any of the outstanding items. I know a majority of the site work's been done. I think it's more focused on the landscaping and maybe a few other items. And I know that the applicant and owner is here as well to comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, I'll go to you, DPW. Mike, you,
We, thanks, Jim, we didn't have any comments. We saw Beta's report on the construction inspection, Matt's report they put together with the photos and everything. We didn't have any issues on the site at all.
okay. Gary, can I go to you, please, for reference of Matt?
Yes, you may. Matt has submitted a report, and he's got a little bit of a laundry list associated with what's going on in terms of the issues that are outstanding. As he noted, the primary issue is that, as Amy stated, a lot of the landscaping areas have not really been landscaped and have to be changed. There's a few other minor things. There's a dumpster in the emergency access drive that they'd like to get removed or relocated. Interesting thing on the AC units, they've been located at the rear of the property. There's a solid PVC fencing between the AC units and the apartments themselves. But I believe as it was proposed, the AC units were actually going to be against the building, and then there was going to be a sound barrier. So there is no sound barrier relative to the abutters to the property. So there is quite a bit of screening, but Matt indicated he just hasn't been out there to be able to make the determination as to whether or not the noise associated with these is an issue. Few other minor things. Some drainage manholes have to be brought up to grade. Another cover's got to be modified. The fire hydrant seems it's going to require some form of adjustment because when you loam and seed it, the breakaway is going to be below grade. There is a little bit of a bit curb issue associated with right there at the entrance. And the proposed retaining wall at the front right of the building hasn't been installed. And doesn't appear as if it's even been necessarily prepared for relative to the reserve grading. So that's pretty much Matt's report in a nutshell.
Okay, good, thank you. Before I go to the applicant, I'll go to the rest of the board. Mark, any comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have a question about the landscaping. How much would that contribute to the stormwater going into the catch basins down under the street? Is that a valid question, or?
Good silt bags and whatnot in the catch basins?
Yes.
Okay,
If I can,
Sure.
any erosion control should be in place and still maintain that until everything's fully established, so that should still be in place.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Chris?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I need to recuse myself from this deliberation, or
Okay.
conversation.
Yep. Jay?
Oh, yeah.
Steph?
Yes, I'd just like to hear from Brad about the walkways and the tree installation. It's completed by July 31st. Is that really the most ideal time to be planting trees in the midst of the heat for giving them a better chance to survive, maybe a little later?
Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, grab a chair. Just introduce yourself for record, please.
Brad Chaffee, Camper Property Group, developer and builder. Yes, so I can, the majority of really what's not complete, other than a couple of things they mentioned, the front area, just loam and seed, because it is not an ideal time, and we put the trees in that were for parking and what we had to do. And we put them in 100-degree weather and water them every day since. So actually on our last partial, actually on the application, I requested that we go to the end of October. My goal is for the site is we have the majority of people moving in, hopes to move in, the building inside. We've gone through inspection, but basically next week through kind of mid-August. So get everybody moved in, kind of shuffle everyone around, get out of the summer weather, grass the front area, there's a walkway you have to finish, and complete the landscaping around the back of the building and all. If I just plant grass there and do that now, I think I'm just gonna grow weeds if anything, so that's, doesn't look pretty, but we mulched actually most of the areas if you drive by on the left side and front just to stabilize areas that are eventually gonna get planted.
And can you just comment on the retaining wall that wasn't put in?
Sure. I think in the plans, just the way we had the grading before, we thought we would need a little bit of a wall with a walkway, but actually when we constructed it, it just was unnecessary. So we were able to make the actual walkway from the handicap spots on the front right of the corner. That walkway that goes around to the garage area is all accessible in under 5%. So it wasn't a need. So we did it.
And then how about the air conditioning units that were brought up with landscaping and fencing?
Sure. So on the plans, we had them up against the building, and typically I've built that way. There is a couple of bedrooms that are on the first floor that are on the back, and I was concerned with just the decimals on these aren't bad, but you get a lot of air vibration when they're close to stuff. So I was very concerned about someone, since these are condos and they are owned, that someone in those bottom floor units would feel the air off their windows, kind of in the bedroom. So I pushed them off the building, put fence around the front and screened with more arborvitaes around the back to kind of encapsulate them. So it was really just, I'd be very shocked if any abutters that are hundreds of feet away would even notice they're on at all. So I just pushed them off the building a little bit just so they wouldn't vibrate the building.
So Brad, if for some reason with that change, there is a complaint about noise from an
Sure.
abutter that's far away, is that something you're willing to address with more screening or something
Absolutely,
else?
absolutely, yeah. And these are residential in size too, just so everyone knows. These are very small condensers. They're like the mini splits you have at your house. They're a ton and a half. They're small.
I think just for me, I won't speak for the rest of the board, but I think just monitoring that and making sure there's
Sure,
no issues with the
absolutely,
abutters.
yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Jen?
Thanks. I had the same sort of thoughts about the ACs, but you addressed that. You just want to make sure if people are moving in, that the site, all the safety measures are being met. And that includes, I'd say, walkway completion to the extent as required for this current phase. And the emergency access, obviously relocating that dumpster. So can you, through the chair, explain which walkways on the site are complete, will be complete shortly, and then long-term, when final actions will be made throughout the site?
Sure, absolutely, with the chair. The only walkway that is not complete is the actual one from 140 into the parking lot. All the walkways that are on site for residents that are parking there or handicap accessible to go into the building are all complete, stairs and everything. So it's really public access that goes through that center. I was a little hesitant just not planting it, putting it in, so we actually started prepping for it. So if we don't pour it this week, we're gonna pour it next week. I was trying to keep that area in the front just kind of open just for while people moved in, for contractors and stuff like that. And we do have a small commercial spot that is not ready to be open. That'll probably be the last unit that we complete. So anyone that's living there, has guests there, that building is completely ADA accessible from all the walks and everything that are there. It's just the public access from 140.
Thank you for clarifying. I guess I just want to make sure, particularly before that commercial space comes online.
Absolutely.
And/or if the people who live in the building are trying to get to the sidewalk, that they're getting to the site safely, independent of not wanting the public to go to them. I think still making sure that people who reside there, are safe getting to the street. But it sounds like that's happening very shortly.
Like I said, I was slightly hesitant, and I said, let's just do it. So if we're not pouring it on Wednesday of this week, we will pour it probably Monday when we get back.
Okay.
If you go by, you can see it's all prepped.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, before people move into the private town.
Okay, great, thanks. That's all.
Okay. My sentiment about the AC units, my only concern is the fence may reflect the AC back to the neighbors. You're only, what, a foot and a half, not even a foot away from them? And I don't, if anything, I would have made sure that the fence was to the inside of your property and the AC units are on the inside. So that one makes me a bit nervous with that, especially for the neighbors. The hole out front at the front entrance for the asphalt, is that patched?
It's supposed to be done today, it'll be done tomorrow.
Dumpster enclosure, complete?
Yes.
So the dumpster will be gone. What else did I have? I had one more. About the temporary fencing, I know Matt had a comment about that. I'm just gonna make sure that it's a safe site for people to get in and out of. Is there a way to designate that so that people don't use that particular, block it off or corner it off with your fencing? Just isolate it so that people don't start.
Would take that,
matching.
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
That fencing that's along the front, I kind of just kept it up as long as possible, just to keep people out of there. So tomorrow and Wednesday, it'll be completely gone, other than what's in the front.
Okay.
So it's just, it looks more like it's blocking off for construction, but once the fence goes away, other than the front not being landscaped and the walkway, everything else is complete.
Okay.
So yes, same thing, no one's gonna be moving into that building, obviously, and, until it looks, I should say, I feel it's safe, at least it looks safe, but that fence is coming down this week.
Okay. Now, I had one question, going back to the original application, the retaining wall. If I remember correctly, it was gonna have a bit of an indentation with a seating area for people to walk up the street and sit inside that. Was that ever in the final without having the plan in front of me? I know it was a lot of topic of conversation with the retaining wall. You're gonna create a recess, put some seating there for people walking the sideway to utilize. You remember that? I know it was talked about. I can't remember if it was on the final set of drawings.
I don't have access to the plans, I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman. There was an iteration of us at
Yep.
one point in
There
time.
was.
When we had when we were keeping 8080 Central Street. Actually, when the house was there and there was a hill there and it was staying there, we had one of our designs had an indent. But when the house came down and all that changed,
Just the
they made
retaining
plan.
walls came
Yeah,
into
we're-
play.
Correct.
Okay.
The retaining wall it's kind of odd, you wouldn't notice it, but it was against the 3 feet that's between the parking lot and the building on the right side was a 2-foot retaining wall, and that was to help the grade to the actual ADA walkway to the right of the building. Once we finalized all our grades and we did that, we didn't need it. That's the retaining wall that Beta is discussing.
So I'm gonna just make a recommendation that the building commissioner just do a final walkthrough for some of these outstanding items, such as sidewalk, a little miscellaneous stuff for safety purposes, for final release of the partial that is for this. So make a motion to approve the partial Form H for, we're gonna make it 88 and 94,
Yeah,
for 88 and 94, because 70 and 72 are next door, or all four?
Yeah, all four is fine.
All four, okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Have a nice 4th, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Our next item of business, this would be excuse me, a Panther Way Senior Village, and they're looking to be continued. July 14th, Amy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I make a motion to continue Panther Way Senior Village till July 14th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item of business, this would be for 60 Earls Way. This would be a site plan application, and I understand they're looking for continuation as well. July 14th work for this one as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, they're gonna be prepared for that, or?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to continue 60 Earls Way till July 14th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next item of business, this would be an initial hearing for site plan application for 380 King Street. I make a motion to waive the reading. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just want to make a note on this one. This had gone in front of the ZBA, and it was approved for approximately 40 units. Now they're back in front of the planning board for the site itself, not the building per se. So before I go to Amy, if you want to just introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Oh, yes, good evening,
Sorry,
Mr. Chairman.
that's okay, you're getting ready.
I was too busy reading. Edward Cannon on behalf of the applicant. Ownership, which is represented by Pat Marguerite here tonight with me, and Joe Mallow from Narragansett Engineering.
Okay, good.
Thank
Thank
you.
Before I go to anyone else, I'll go to Amy, the Department of Planning, please. Amy, if you could give us a brief overview?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is located in the Commercial 2 zoning district. They did go for a variance over with the ZBA, which was granted for a multifamily use for up to 40 residential units. The ZBA did require that per every 10 unit, one shall be affordable. So they have proposed, and they need to qualify under the local initiative program or the local action unit program. So they came with us with 30 units, so which is less than the 40 units, therefore giving us 3 units that will be required to be affordable. Also part of the variance is that they are to be ownership. I actually think that might have been part of, they also had some legal stuff with the abutters. So they are to be ownership, and they will be condos. A couple things, they have not provided the outdoor lighting plan, open space areas, snow storage. That should be provided on the plan, and a photometric plan as well to determine where the lighting will go. They do have a lot of connections in the rear of the building to the properties they own on the left and right of the building. So we want to make sure that we're not shining too much light over onto abutting properties if they aren't the commercial properties, or if there's any light shining onto King Street that could become an issue for people driving on King Street. I think I would just I said consider adding some of the crosswalks to the side entrance where they currently have most of the ADA spots. They might want to move some of those in front of the building and offer crosswalks in front of the building as well, because the side of the building is where they're coming in through the main entrance, their only entrance and exit, other than going to the rear of the building. So I would say consider that. If there's any signage, they should add a signage to the plan and depict where that would be located on the plan.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to anybody else, I'll just look for the applicant, if they want to give us a brief presentation in the audience. This is an initial meeting, so this will obviously be continued, but at least everybody will hear and see what they're proposing. So if you want to just...
Sure,
proceed
thank
forward.
you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So just by way of background, and Amy touched on some of those things, we have the photometric plan done, we have the landscaping plan done. Just didn't want to submit those on Friday and Monday, so we'll get those in right away. And then we expect to be filing with design review this week, so we have not completed that process, but we expect to sort of run that parallel with this process and complete design review before we complete with this board. By way of history, so there is a use variance that was appealed by the Spruce Pond condominiums in back. That's ongoing, but I met with council, said, hey, look, we can keep coming up with proposals, and you can keep appealing, or we can sit down and sort of work out what might be acceptable, and then, and so that's what we did. And so we have a stay in place with a list of conditions that the condominiums wanted to see become part of this. And I did just send those recently. I don't expect the board to be familiar with that, but I don't expect this to be the last hearing either, so you should have plenty of time to look at those. So not a lot. It's conveying a strip of land in back so they can maintain a buffer. The reason why we're here with 30 units is they didn't want 40 units. They didn't want a 4-story building. They wanted 3 stories with 30 units. So, you know, we really work to try to be collaborative and try to come up with something that they would be satisfied with, and we think we've accomplished that. And so that's sort of the history there. And then in terms of the site itself, we do not have them done, but we expect as a condition of approval that we'll have some cross easements for access, which it sort of operates that way now, but we'll make sure it's memorialized and done properly in back and in front is the way, sort of how it works now, but that will be part of the final solution as well. And with that, through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask Joe to sort of take the board through the plan and the general idea.
Sure. Please do.
Hello, Chair and board members. Joe Melo with Narragansett Engineering, like Ted mentioned. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the site, the 390 King Street. It's commercially zoned, and then we have 2 restaurants, one on either side, and then currently it's there's access drives on the south and the north of the drive currently, and then there's a paved and kind of overgrown landscaped area in the middle of the site. Currently, there's 3 existing entryways, one for essentially each use there. Those will all remain in the proposed condition as well. Overall, there's a modest slope going from west to east over to Spruce Pond. Like mentioned, proposing a 30-unit condo residential building, associated parking, and site features with that. It will be a 3-story building on slab on grade. Just due to the limited space on the site, there's some minor modifications to the property lines, to the adjacent properties to the east and to the west. And with that, there is also a section along the south side of the site that there was the agreement that would be transferred over to the condo association to the south.
Joe, if I may, just to let the board know. So we were in earlier in the spring for an A&R plan to sort of carve up some of those smaller pieces that are now rearranged as you see in the final. And the largest piece by far is the condo piece in the back, but then there were some smaller ones just to square off some of the lots.
I apologize, yes, that was already completed there.
Thanks.
So just with the 30 units, just the ordinance requires 2 parking spaces per unit, so 30 units, so we have 60 parking spaces. And with the, sorry, I'll jump to the site plan here. With some ADA spaces as well. We meet all the parking requirements and the ADA requirements. The circulation, just like in the existing conditions, there will be access easements to go from all 3 lots, to kind of how it is used today, to continue the access across the easements, across the properties. And then we will be just repaving the main entrance into the area of concern on King Street. For utilities, there is existing utilities for sewer. There's an existing sewer easement and sewer line that's on the south side of the property that goes from the King Street Cafe, sorry, the plan's upside down, southeast across. So that will be relocated for the proposed new building, and then we would tie into that sewer, and then it would continue on. And then the gas and the water, there's already services on our property, so we would just reconnect into those services into the new building. The only new connection with King Street would just be tying into an existing utility pole that's already there, just putting underground electric, going over to a transformer, which would tie into the building. Obviously, we will be working with all the utility companies going forward and the DPW going forward for the coordination of the utility connections. For the stormwater, currently, there's some existing catch basins on the site, but there's no existing treatment for the stormwater for this section of the property. We've completed 3 soil evaluations along with percolation tests to determine the infiltration rates and the soil conditions. So the proposed drainage system for this site would incorporate underground conveyance system comprised of catch basins, drain manholes, and then 3 separate underground infiltration systems. Try to find the overview there. So this design will ensure that all the proposed impervious areas will be treated prior to being discharged downstream to Spruce Pond. There will be no increased runoff or volume to either, actually it's a reduction to both, but King Street and Spruce Pond will both have a reduction. All the stormwater meets all the design requirements, and we will work with Beta going forward as well. We just received the comments from Beta, I think it was the end of last week, so we haven't had time to do a formal response to comments, but we have read through and understand all the comments. After going through all the comments, we don't believe there's anything that will require substantial change to the plan set or major modifications, and we believe it's something that we can work with Beta going forward for all the technical aspects. There was just a couple of comments that I wanted to touch upon that weren't so technical, but was also brought up tonight, just about the parking and the sidewalks. One of the comments was just, there's a pinch point down in the southwest corner of the building that was just under the 4 feet of the sidewalk. That will be modified. We'll just alter the drive aisle, maintain the 24-foot minimum, and then just revise that sidewalk. The other one, which I thought was a good comment, was just making a connection from the proposed site down to King Street. So we'll add a crosswalk and then also a sidewalk to connect the north side of the building down along the access drive to King Street. Another comment was just the existing sidewalk along King Street is currently 5 feet. So one of the comments was that the standard is 6 feet. According to the owner, originally it was 6 feet, and the road was modified and taken a foot away from that sidewalk. So we were hoping to get your input on that, but wondering if, because it's an existing sidewalk and it's in good shape, not in disrepair, that could remain in place. For the parking, we do feel that we have provided the 2 spaces per unit, which our understanding, or we feel that this is more than adequate or more than necessary, what we need for the use for the site. So we feel having the 2 spaces would provide adequate parking for all the unit owners and the guests. We feel that maybe 1.25 to 1.5 parking spaces is all that would be needed for the units themselves. And so in the combination, we feel that there'd be adequate parking for the guests as well. The other big one I just want to touch base upon was just the traffic analysis. So generally, Mass DOT just requires any project that generates over 100 trips per hour is the trigger for the traffic analysis. So just according to the ITE, or the Institute for Transportation Engineering, the trip and parking generation, this use proposes about 30 trips per hour, so which is well under the 100. So I just wanted to at least bring that to the attention of the board. We feel that the improvements to the project is going to provide additional housing, additional parking, really bring up the landscaping on this site, and improve the stormwater facilities for this site where nothing's being treated, where now everything's going to be treated properly to today's standards. And the landscaping, like I said, I think it's going to improve the aesthetics of the property and the abutting properties as well. We feel that, this project meets all the town standards at this point. Working with Beta, with their comments, I think we'll have a great project here that will improve the site and the surrounding area. And then I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay, good, thank you. Before I go to the board, Gary, I'm going to go to you. You don't have to answer everything. If you just want to give a brief thoughts where we are with this and where it's going to go.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, we have done, obviously, as they indicated, we did do our first review, although admittedly it was quite quick. I'm sure they didn't expect to get it before the first hearing, but they did. But the answer is we have a few issues with it relative, and he's brushed upon them in terms of what the comments that we do have relative to the proposed site development. Number one, if you look at the buffer associated with the rear of the lot, they're a little bit unusual here in that pretty much the vegetative buffer that is being maintained will actually be transferred over to another party. So it's not really their buffer, but it is their buffer until they convey the lot. But it's a little bit unusual, and I think I'd like to see the board take a quick look at that. I think that was something to be done. He's touched upon a lot of the issues associated with the parking. There is the guest parking. A little bit unusual on this too, in that when you look at the two driveways, one at the rear, one at the front, all four lots are connected. The three commercial and even the gas station up on the intersection is actually connected with this. So it's a bit unusual in that we're going to have a residential lot in the middle of all the commercial lot that's going to be granting access to the commercial use. So it's not just limited to the 30 units. Obviously, we'd like to see the fire department kick in on this, and I have a laundry list associated with the stormwater design that I'd like to see addressed by the applicant. If it can be implemented in accordance with the standards, there will be pretty much a tremendous improvement associated with the treatment provided in terms of that's going into Spruce Pond, because you've got to remember pretty much all of this goes directly into Spruce Pond. I think the outfalls are only about 20-25 feet off the edge of the pond. And with that, I will turn it back over to the board.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll go to the board. Jen, before I go to the audience?
Thanks.
Comments,
Obviously,
questions?
it's the first
Yeah.
hearing, but just right off the bat, Gary, I'm glad you mentioned it. I just think it's, all of these connections of parking lots and drive aisles, to me, feels wrong. Like, at this point, considering the uses, it feels like each of these should be treated as their own circulation system. Like, just because something exists today, in my opinion, doesn't mean it should, like, that's a good thing. It feels like we really should be looking at now each of these properties with their distinct separate uses for sort of what they are. And so I'd actually like to see that change. I'd like to see a safe, like, standalone site if this is to be such a dense residential use with, high turnover, restaurants on either side. Of course, with safety being the utmost importance for each of these sites. and echo all of the sentiment with pedestrian pathways and access, and I do think with any significant new project, we should be bringing, sidewalks to standards, making sure we have adequate buffers to our neighbors. So I think there's, a lot, once we see Beta's comments and really start to get into this. I'd also like to see what this looks like, elevations, sections. You're gonna pull that up?
Yes,
A
sorry.
little preview? Thanks.
Jennifer, could I comment on what you just said about they should be separate lots? Give you a little history. We first proposed separate lots. And at the time, this has been going back 35 years, the planning board insisted that everything gets tied in. Now, I agree, maybe they should be separate, but we were forced to do that by the planning board at the time. And it seems to have worked out. Because if the cars back up at the intersection there, people tend, if they're going towards town or towards 140, people tend to travel down and go out on the bottom access.
Where Sierra's is.
Where Sierra's restaurant is. They tend to,
Right, but I don't know that that's necessarily the right thing, and also it's a different board, so I don't have that history. I'm just going off of
well, I
the
know,
project
I
I see today.
understand. That's why I wanted to bring that up and let you know that over the years, it seems to have really worked when the intersection gets tied up, people travel down to the last exit and go out that way. And it seems to get all the traffic flowing a little better. Just to let you know. Okay.
Thank you. And then, so is this the side elevation and then one of the front elevations?
Yes. Yeah, the King Street elevation is the one towards the bottom, and the side elevation, I think that's the one facing the pond, Spruce Pond. So the east side. And then just one more comment, just on the circulation. One nice feature about having it connected is just the circulation. I know the town of Franklin has the big ladder truck, so we did run that circulation, and with the large ladder truck that the town has, it can circulate the whole property, so it can get to, all three sides of the building, and then also ease of circulation through the other properties as well, just one different aspect.
Sure, and I think there's a way to control like emergency access versus everyday access. So I just think it's something we want to
Sure.
look at with a fresh perspective and long-term think about how all of these uses are working adjacent to each other. That's all for me.
Okay. Yeah?
Sure. Kind of following along the same commentary as Jen, I appreciate that way back when there was a different board that maybe made you do something different, but we're a new board, new times in Franklin,
Of course.
new property being put in the middle of all these commercial uses, which may have worked back then, but now you have residences in between them all. So that's a concern for me. And thinking about 4 uses connected, when you say you have approximately 30 hourly ins and outs for this residential property, are you taking into consideration the traffic, as you mentioned, that might flow down the street and try to exit to be beating the traffic light or saving time out, trying to get out of their exit and entrance? So that for me is something that really stands out, that we're gonna end up with a situation that's like right here with Shaw's, where everybody uses that as a cut through and creating traffic that isn't accounted for anywhere because it's not meant to be a road. So your internal circulation is not meant to be a road. I don't disagree that it helps in some instances, like if you're going across the street here from, your restaurant over to Big Y, that's one property. And it acts as one property, but you have 4 uses, a gas station and 2 restaurants with residential smack in the middle of them all. I don't like the concept personally. I think a better ability to show us how that's going to work is really needed. And then could you discuss a little bit more about the buffer agreement with the abutting Spruce Pond condos?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have my glasses on today.
Yeah, the idea of deeding that strip was a specific request from them. So they wanted the ability to maintain
Maintain
on their own. So they didn't want to have to look across and say, geez, it's not getting watered enough, or gee, that tree looks like it's dying. They wanted to have the right to be able to
I
do
think that was my question, is just making sure that that is what, and that will be in place, that agreement will be in place, or some form of draft of something before.
That agreement
Well,
is in place.
it is in place,
We
yeah.
have to-
Yeah,
We would have to deed it to them.
yeah, yeah, that's part of the order of stay in the Superior Court. Yeah,
Just want to make sure that was.
yeah, yeah, we just want to make sure. I neglected to when we filed to add it, but I did add it on Friday so that board can see all of those. And we do want to make sure that all of those are incorporated in the final version.
Great. When you have the entrances here, you have, I think, the one into, is it Sierra's? Then you have the one into the residential and the one into King Street. What is the distance between all those entrances?
I know the distance between the two closest is 150 feet. I don't know the distance, do I have it on? No, I don't have the distance from,
Looks like it's probably greater than
it's
150.
greater than 150, not double, but
Yep,
maybe
just
200.
Ask them that, yeah, okay. And then, when you talk about plenty of parking, you have 2 spaces per resident. How many bedrooms are each of your units?
2 bedrooms.
2 bedroom, okay. And then, are you going to have assigned spaces to the residents, or is it just come and go as you please, and your guests can fight it out when there's no residents parked there?
We really haven't, we don't have assigned parking, but it's,
Because if you're not providing guest spaces, then I don't see how you can have assigned parking, so just keeping that in mind. So if you're not going to be providing any specific spaces designated for.
I guess we could assign one for every unit, if that
Yeah, I
would be
mean,
helpful.
up to you, but just keeping in mind, if you're not providing us separate
Mhm.
guest spaces, that if you assign parking spots to your actual units, then you're not gonna have enough parking for guests.
Yeah.
So, or hope that your units don't have 2 cars and they can say your guest can park in my spot.
We can talk about that at the end of the meeting.
All right, that's just my suggestion, just thinking
Okay.
about it. That's all I have right now in
Okay.
the general. thoughts.
Jay?
So I don't want to be a dead horse, but I think the big question I have is about the circulation. Seems like a lot of driveways in one spot, even if they are 150 feet apart. I almost question whether or not, this is gonna sound crazy, if this should even have its own driveway. And I kind of like, in my engineering brain, kind of prefer just the driveway at the King Street Cafe and just the driveway at the pizza place and no driveway here. Just to eliminate, having 4 openings, because I personally don't like people escaping into traffic. I think that's what the light is for, is to regulate people. That's what the curb is for. But that's really kind of it. I understand that some of that is going to be needed for like emergency access, because, no matter what, you're going to need to be able to swing the fire truck in there. But yeah, I just, like some more iterations on flow through the site, like, we've got, option A, B, C or something like that. And I don't know if it's a possibility to not provide an entrance there. I guess we can look at that, right?
We're gonna be able to look at the traffic
Yeah.
review.
Yeah, so just, I guess, kind of be creative. So, because like, my first thing in that is like, I wouldn't even put the entrance in, I would leave the cross property flow and eliminate the entrance. But that's one guy.
Through the chair, I wouldn't feel so concerned about that, except for the gas station too. So you've got a gas station, restaurant, flowing all through into, potentially, if they can't make the light at that intersection at King Street and, what's the other one? Union, thank you. Then they're just gonna drive from the gas station all the way down through 4 properties, essentially, and head out Sierra's.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're gonna look for an
Yeah,
internal,
I think there's some
internal circulation plan.
massaging to be done here.
Yep. I had that as my notes too.
Yeah, if it's entrances or access,
Yep.
make them one ways, like.
Make sure they all
There's a
work
whole bunch
together
of
if it's
different
gonna,
ways
if it's
that
gonna
we-
go down that
Yeah.
road. Correct. Yeah.
That's really about it.
Okay, good. Thank
Do-
you. Chris?
I was a little confused because I got conflicting views on the entrances and the traffic circulation.
We're gonna look for something that's gonna show all parcels with the traffic management plan to make sure they all work together. But it's just a thought,
Okay.
whether one's needed, one's not needed, will all of them work together? Will this throw a curveball in? Will the gas station throw a curveball in with this? We want to see an analysis of all the sites put together, so you make sure it can be done safely, really is what, that's what it'll come
Talking
down
about an
to.
internal traffic
Correct. Yep.
analysis. Okay.
Yep, yep.
And then do you wanna see what like's going on to King Street as well?
Yeah,
I wanna see
I
that.
just want to make sure everything's tied. If we're tying it together, if that's the proposal, I want to make sure it all ties together, with the queuing of the lights and everything. Okay?
Yeah, I guess what I was kind of more throwing out there is if you have to get kind of innovative with how you manage things on the site, if, you know, this entrance, that entrance flow through the property. You know, if you feel like it's good to present a few options, because we're getting kind of conflicting
You could-
reports
you
up
could-
here.
You can make one entrance a one-way coming
Yeah,
in,
you
and
get-
and
you
exit
know,
another
feel
way,
free to
so,
We have that.
yeah,
Feel free to get creative.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Okay,
And
good?
basically what we're saying is show us some options.
Yeah.
Yeah, show us
Show
a
And
lot.
us-
we-
show it how
and we're
to-
gonna look for Beta to help us with this one as well.
Okay.
Okay, good. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think on face, just starting out, I'm not a huge fan of this project from scale standpoint at this point. I think looking at the 1.5 story structure and then call it the 2-story structure, and now you're putting a 3-story larger structure in the middle. I just think from a scale standpoint, looking down the commercial properties on that street, that this is gonna stick out like a sore thumb and until something's done with the other two. I would actually be almost more in favor if, say, the Sierra building was incorporated and also turned into a similar size structure, because then I think you have some consistency there, and it's at one end as opposed to something in the middle all by itself. And I think that also takes care of a lot of the access concerns that we've been expressing here. And regarding the access, I would like it, currently, if this is what's gonna move forward as a proposal, it being treated and operated as its own without cross-access, because understanding you currently own, right, all 3 parcels back to door, that may not always ever be the case. So then how does that impact either future development on those other sites? And then are there currently reciprocal access agreements in place now?
We intend to do that.
Okay, so in perpetuity,
Yes.
this would have to be,
Yes.
okay.
It can't be changed. If for some reason we don't own it anymore, it cannot be changed.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is just the cross-traffic, people zipping down in the back from the gas station or up, and then you have residents that are maybe not paying attention, walking back with the groceries, whatever, and there's someone driving down there at 35 miles an hour, and that's just a problem. So for me, I'm not a fan of the cross-access. It being its own standalone by itself would be better, but even in that instance, I think just the scale of it right now is not something I'm in favor of.
Can I address?
Yes, sir.
Your first concern was that the elevation of that building will be higher than what it's in the middle of, but that elevation drops considerably where that building is.
Yep, certainly.
So the roof lines are pretty consistent with the restaurant.
Yeah, and I should say my issue isn't with the, let's say, top line elevation, it's the massing relative to the
Yeah,
other
I
buildings,
understand.
so, yeah. But thank you, I do appreciate that, thank you. I think that's everything, Mr. Chairman.
Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for providing the conceptual drawing, because that was one of my questions, but I also have a similar concern with Chris. It's the height of the building being consistent with the neighboring businesses alongside, and also with the neighbors across the street. Maybe the roof line can be changed so it doesn't look as towering, because I think it will look out of place, in my
We could
opinion.
get the architect to look at that. We did tell him to try and keep the roof line level with the restaurant next to it, and I believe he came pretty close. So I'll have him take another look.
All right, I appreciate that. Echoing a couple of the other board members, the circulation I also have a concern with, but not to beat that up anymore. Relocating the ADA spots to be in front of the building instead of snow storage, that seems to be limited or shared, I guess it was, as it was put in
Yeah, most
the
of it
diagram.
usually goes down to the Sierra corner down there.
Unfortunately, we haven't had any snow, but I think if we were to get anything substantial, we'd have an issue in this particular location. Guest parking, I had an issue with. And I think that would be it, other than I have one, it's kind of a random thing. I happened to be at the King Street Cafe today, and driving by, there is a tree there that was planted in honor of Mr. Gricci.
Mr. Gricci.
Could that be
We're gonna
incorporated
save
in the landscape plan?
We're gonna save that. I made a promise to Mr. Gricci that tree would be there as long as I could maintain it. And that will be, and we have to move it a little bit, but it will be.
Okay, I think that would be pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
think
kind
so.
of,
I
but
agree.
other than that, I thank you, and I have no other comments.
Okay, good. I just had a couple, I think internal circulation, external circulation, I think that's gonna be the big one here. Conservation Commission? No?
Not needed.
N- We're outside the buffer? Okay. Fire Department? Fire Department go through yet? There was a, okay, I didn't catch it, I'm sorry. Okay. Real quick, on the setback on the lot line in the envelope, bottom right corner. You're awful close to that lot line. Just be careful of balconies and things of such, because you're really close to that one, if that being said, okay? I think, like I said, I think you heard it from the board and the rest of the members. I think the most important thing is the circulation of the traffic and the amount of traffic and the size of the building proportionately to the neighborhood, with the adjoining neighbors as well as the existing buildings. I think that it needs to be taken into consideration. Maybe you can give us a rendering showing all 3 parcels or all 4 parcels with roof lines or center lines, so
Okay.
we can gauge it, so it doesn't look like it's sticking out like a sore thumb. I think that'll be helpful for the rest of the board as well. So this, like I said, this is just an initial hearing, so what I'll do is I'll go to the audience if,
We have just,
oh,
Jen.
oh, I'm sorry, you had one more, yep.
I have one more too.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
It's classic.
No worries.
I just had a couple more comments, sorry. The front of the building should look like the front of the building, meaning what is King Street facing? So I'd like to see that elevation not look like a side of a building. For what it's worth, we've gotten into a situation in the past where, you know, you've got your biggest facade that's facing the street is like a dead side of a building. So I think some design work needs to be done to
Sure.
better relate to the context.
Lining it up.
Yeah, and also, I had a question, sorry, also following up to that, through the chair. Are these residents gonna have any sort of like outdoor space, amenities on the site, like patio, places they can,
They're all designed to have outside patios.
well, other than their balcony, like shared space where they can grill or, you know, anything,
Have a green space.
green
common area.
space?
Well, there is, on the right side of the building, looking at it, there is green space. I guess that could be used.
I think this is just like further adding to a bit of the concern, all these connected sites, and this is what you get into when you've got commercial, and like residential in the middle of it. It's a sea of pavement, and that, to me, is not the most enjoyable residential experience, and would like to see, you know, some outdoor green space, open space.
We could take out some parking.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I just think all of these need to be looked at holistically. It's hard for me to like really just,
No, I understand.
because I also, I hate pavement, you know, like more than what's needed. But I just, I think that needs to be part of the equation when we're looking at options.
Can the board give us some direction about the parking? We do have the required amount.
I mean, I think all of us, you're gonna find a different opinion from
Yeah,
every
I'm sure,
person on
probably,
this
but-
board.
Any consensus or anything about taking out some parking spaces and adding some green space?
Have you looked at going subterranean and getting 15, 20 spots underneath the building?
Yeah, we looked at that, it didn't quite work out. The building's not wide enough to do that.
don't know about that, I mean, the grade of the site's
And the
dropped off.
grading, the grading
so that's,
is not
like,
right
usually
for that either.
perfect for tucking parking underneath, so I don't necessarily agree, maybe, like, it would be more expensive, but that might be worth the trade-off.
We looked at that.
I can comment on my opinion on
Sure.
parking, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. Your proximity to uses such as Walgreens or grocery stores, you've got restaurants and a gas station, convenience store. While not super close to, you know, the amenities that are, say, for something across the street that are right next door to a grocery store, you are close to being able to walk to some areas, I think. I think if you can add some green space and provide a really good argument why you need a parking reduction, I don't think anyone on this board would not hear your argument. So again, I think it goes along with being creative with the circulation, coming up with a project that fits this site a little bit better. I know you did receive the variance, so for the planning board, our option is to make this the best site possible for a site plan review. So just taking into
Well, I think that's in
consideration-
everyone's benefit. And
Yeah.
that's, if you would work with us on letting us make some green space, let us take some
Like
parking
I
and
said,
create
provide us a
green
great
space.
option for why you need it, and I think that you will have the board's attention.
Okay.
I think. And then just one comment that I heard you say, for snow storage, did you say that it typically is going to be done on Sierra's property?
Well, that's where we usually put it all.
Okay.
And we have over the years, and it's always worked out.
So
I guess
for
we would
me-
continue to do that.
I think for me, I'd like to see some sort of agreement in place for that, but
Of course,
otherwise, I
of
think
course.
this site should be treated as it can comply with all the bylaws without having to rely on another property in order to make this site work. So I'd appreciate if this site could work independently, as everyone is, this board has said. I don't want to have to see you using other components of other sites in order to make this site work. I mean, I don't think that's the intent here.
Okay.
So.
I'd like it self-contained, just for the future, just in case, because if not, you're gonna be pushing everything to Sierra's in and around
Well,
cars,
here's-
in parking
I
lots.
We could, behind the gas station, we have a green space there. We could attach that to this property, it would be another Form A, and use that as snow storage.
I think maybe just go back
If
and
that-
take a look at what you guys can come up with to make this site improved a bit. You know, I think it just needs some work, and I think you can be creative, and I think you can come up with something.
Okay?
Okay.
We'd love to be creative.
I did want to leave the board, speaking of creativity, with a thought. We understand there's a requirement of affordable units. One thing that the applicant wanted, at least the board to consider, certainly willing to put those in, but there was some thought to, as an alternative to constructing a covered, secure bike storage facility on site here and at the MBTA station to house 30 bikes. So just something, again, trying to be creative to promote, bike access rather than traffic. Just something to think
Through
about.
the chair, for me, I mean, I think I'm not in favor of substituting bike access for affordable condos that have ownership opportunities. So that's not something that I'm feeling like is a good entertainment or equal exchange.
Now, if you're making an argument for less parking to benefit something like that, then I'd be more amenable, and I agree with you, open to creative solutions in that regard. I don't see those as that.
So, come up with a couple renderings.
Sure.
This first, other than this one, and then maybe two more, see if we can make something work. Chris, you had one more comment or no?
No, I was agreeing with Jen on the,
Jay, you good? Right, so, yeah, so I'll just go to the audience. If anybody's in the audience had any comments or questions, just approach the mic and give your name and address, please. This will get continued, so this is not the last of the meetings for everybody to know. So I guess, one gentleman.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Brian Hickox on behalf of Spruce Pond Village Condominiums. The sole question that I have at this point is with regard to the proposed sewer easement. If the engineer may be able to help with this question that we have. It appears that the current sewer line goes from King Street Cafe behind the proposed building and then over into Sierra's area. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. And then from Sierra's lot, that goes out directly from Sierra's lot to the public hookup at the street? Or does it use another line other than direct into the street connection?
Well, it goes to the line that serves Spruce Pond.
Okay, so it accesses, so this line that King Street Cafe
Gotcha.
currently feeds into the same line that Spruce Pond utilizes?
Yes.
Okay. Has there been a demand study done on the extra demand of 30 units in addition to what's existing at the cafe, what's existing with the 100 units? Or should there perhaps be a parallel line that goes out to the street or potentially goes directly from this particular proposed lot straight out into the street? Has that been examined?
It's something that we'd be working with the sewer department to determine that as we move forward in the design phase.
Okay, I just wanted to make a note of that as a forward-looking observation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I actually have one observation as well, as we're talking about green space, and I thought this was the case, but I wanted to confirm. The space that we're gonna be talking about to the west of the building there, the green space, that's a drainage basin. I'm not hanging out in a drainage basin. So if we're looking for green space, we could add it.
Just good. It's actually not any stormwater treatment, it's just there's a steep slope there, and it's just a natural swale just to get the water away from the building, but it's not deep or anything like that. The steep slope is really just tying in the grades from the abutting lot, but it's not ponding anything. There's a catch basin at the south end, but it's
And a
flush.
flow line and a catch basin, it's drainage conveyance structure. So no one's hanging out in it.
And no one's hanging out on a steep slope.
Okay, Paul?
Okay.
Okay,
But
well,
if you would be open to looking at, if we come in with a new, a revised plan that shows some green space in lieu of parking, we could talk about that.
I think the board
Green
could be.
space and bikes.
Yeah.
I read space and bikes.
Yeah.
So I just want to get clarification on something, like what we, forgive me if this is like dumb. The ZBA allowed this to go to C2 use for up to 40 units.
Correct.
We do have a say in how big this project is,
Not
in
really.
terms of number of units.
No.
As
They
long as it's
could,
right,
they could
not
turn
like any
around and
other-
say, they
like
can
any
go,
other-
no, they can go to 40 if they want. But it came down to 30 because of Spruce Pond, so they're at the 30 limit right now.
I mean, they're in front of the board. I think it's really up to the applicant to come back. They've heard all your comments tonight. It's on the applicant's job to come back and present something that, from the comments tonight, they think the board would be amenable. Is it to reduce units, keep 2 spots per unit? Is it to keep the amount of units, reduce parking? This is up to the applicant. It is up to the applicant to take this feedback and come back with something
Yep.
that, that would satisfy the board. But it is up to 40 units. I know that I think through the courts they agreed, which is separate from us, for the 30 units, if they were to drop, if they wanted to drop to 28, 26, they could do that. If
But
they,
Amy, not to interrupt you, just to clarify for Jen, but we as a board cannot say we only want 15 units because they've been granted something from ZBA that allows up to 40, correct?
up to 40, it's up to 40. Yes, no,
No,
not
Us,
correct.
the planning board,
No,
cannot then say.
You just can't grant over 40. You can
That's what I'm
grant
saying. I think
any,
it's like
any
other-
amount under 40. Any amount under
Like, if
40.
we said we want this smaller, that's our,
It's interesting, 'cause that's
Yeah,
not what I was.
because it said up to 40.
Up to
Okay.
40.
It didn't say 40 exactly. An example, another project across the street said 104 units granted. This is up to, so this is not an actual 40-unit grant.
Well, that changes
And
my
the 30
perspective.
was
So-
determined from the Spruce
But I
Pond
think at this
situation.
point, we let the applicant come back.
Sure.
They have heard the comments, they know what the board feels right now. You can hash it out all night long, but without another plan in front of us, I think that,
But I think your
My whole
that's
point
explanation,
to come
Amy,
back.
and to Jen's point too, is that that's not what was explained to me, so now that I know that, I
Mhm.
have a different opinion.
Okay.
I'm not okay with
Okay.
30 units.
well, because we're
Person's
arguing
point of
about like,
view.
where's the green space? And it's
Yeah,
like, well, there's
just
the green
shrink it.
space. Yeah.
Well,
For the record, if,
to give you a little history, we had an approval for 40. with the ZBA. The Spruce Pond people who would be mostly impacted by this, more than anyone else, they exercised their right to appeal it, and then we sat down and we had some conversations with their board, and they agreed that 30 units would be acceptable. And so that's what we came in with.
Mr.
But
Chairman,
it does fit in with it fits in, the level, the elevations fit in, and we'll show you that, what you asked for, the whole.
I think the point for me is that my understanding of what you could or couldn't do is a little different. So if you have a site right now that has to rely on other sites in order to operate, then reducing the size of that building to make the site work might be a solution.
We don't need
You don't
other
necessarily,
sites. We conform with everything. We don't need it.
They don't
We
need
have
the additional
re-
sites, which is
required
part of the
parking.
circulation.
right, so
Yeah.
make it work on like the snow storage and
Yep.
things like that. Just put something in here. I'm not saying you have to get rid of like, I don't know, be creative, that's all I
But
can say.
we-
I understand what you're saying.
We have,
Yeah.
we've
Yep,
created this site to fit every one of your zoning bylaws.
not exactly, but that's okay.
Well, I think so. Tell us where we
I
missed.
think we've gone through everything already, so I think
Yeah.
what we've asked is just come back with something that shows us your circulation works, some green space.
The snow storage.
Snow
just the
storage.
typicals, what
Yeah,
Mr.
okay.
Cannon knows what we're always
Sure.
looking for. And then we can make an assessment, we can have Beta make an assessment, we can have Mike, Amy, everybody look at it, and we can
Okay,
work our way through it, that's all.
okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
so, thank you. So I make a,
Is there any, are you taking any more comments from the audience?
I don't think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't see you. Just your name and address, please, that's all.
Good evening, I'm Paul Bartlett, I live at 407 King Street, right across the street from this project. I just had a couple of incidents, this is the first time I've seen these plans. The rumor out in the street is that Sierras was going to be knocked down. I'm getting the impression that's not the case here.
This is just the lot in the center. This is where
Right,
the old
okay.
nursery was. It's
A question for the engineer, you mentioned a transformer that was going to come in from the King Street. Could you point out on your drawing where that is? Right on the corner there? Okay, so it's not right on the street or anything, because I know the Spruce Pond community and the King Street community don't want to be listening to a transformer humming the entire time. And I'd just like to, first of all, I want to commend Mr. Marguerite, you know, he cleared the ZBA for 40 units, and because of the back and forth, he did bring it down to 30 units. I think that was a good gesture on his part, I will say that. The traffic study that was brought up by the engineer, what did you say, 30 trips per hour? I've lived at this house for almost 25 years now. There's a lot more cars coming in and out of that parking lot than 30 trips per hour. Many, many more than 30 trips per hour. So I think if you're starting at a blank slate, then 30 trips per hour is probably, that makes sense. However, when you already have these three businesses, at the moment, two businesses, that contribute so much more to that, I don't think the 30 trips per hour thing is really a practical starting point. And just to defend Mr. Marguerite here, when he was talking about that there's a lot of concern about traffic cutting through the gas station, I'm going to help him out here. I think what he means is when traffic is traveling westbound on King Street and it gets stopped at that light and people are trying to get out, it's typically Sierras and the King Street Cafe. They will go down to the easternmost entrance and exit, the Sierras lot, and they will try to get into traffic going westbound that way because they can't cross the street. I guess my point is there's already a large enough traffic problem there to where they have to go down as far east as they can get in order to get into the westbound lane. Nobody's cutting through the gas station to avoid the light or anything like that. It's just trying to get onto King Street that is the challenge already. So, and that's all. I just wanted to make that heard.
Thank you for your comments. I don't know you, but thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
I have one comment. Those
Yep.
30 trips per hour were an additional from the condos, not total. Just so we
Okay.
got straight with that.
Okay, good. So make a motion to continue to July 28th. Give enough time, Amy, for another
Yes.
update? Okay.
Is that enough time for you to follow this?
And you don't have,
But to take it,
It'll
Yeah.
just progress it forward a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, so July 28th, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Okay. Our next item of business will be for 800 Chestnut Street, site plan application, its initial public hearing. Make a motion to waive the reading. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll let everybody go first. So before we get going, if you just want to introduce yourselves for the record, then I'll go around through the departments.
Alexandra Conroy from the Adirondack Club.
Ted Cannon for the Adirondack Club.
Peter O'Kane, Park Corporation, we're the site engineers for the project.
Richard Hendricks for the Adirondack Club. And Bob Hendricks, Adirondack.
Okay, good.
These are both my children.
Okay, good, thank you.
Good experience.
There you go. Amy, if I could go to you, Department of Planning, please?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So they've proposed adding 144 new parking spaces to the existing site. They're not required to file with the Conservation Commission. Beta is reviewing the site and the traffic. They will be, I believe, submitting some additional traffic information. Some of the things that they should show on the plan was recommended is the existing parking count, the entire parking area, the new parking plus the existing parking, the handicap spaces and locations, and then maybe consider, due to the distance that the actual new parking is, they might want to consider adding some crosswalks within the means to get to the sidewalks and access the main building.
Okay, good,
Thank you.
Before I go to Gary, Mike, I'll go to you real quick, if you just got a quick glimpse of it.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just was able to take a quick peek at the plans the other day, so the only comments really have just kind of minor, but on the stormwater and the drainage design, just question the rainfall amounts. They should make sure that just using the NOAA Atlas 14 for the rainfall data, just I think it looked like the numbers were a little bit light on that. And the stormwater report just address how just to include how it addresses this town's bylaw in chapter 153:16. It just has to do with, the town has its own bylaw in addition to the stormwater standards about addressing 1 inch of runoff from new development. Those two items, and then just the new entrance where it comes out onto Chestnut Street, just should be a vertical granite curb within the right of way. And then once it gets onto the site, they can do something.
Was wondering about that comment, thank you.
Okay, good. Gary, hang tight before I go to you and the rest of the board. I'll just see if the applicant could give us a brief overview of the project itself. And obviously, this will be continued, but if you're going to give us a good overview, that'd be appreciated.
So, in summary, there's 2 major components of this project. One is an expansion of the parking lot, as mentioned. We're bringing the parking count up from 184 to 302 parking spaces. The IT manual states it should be around 315. We realized we're not compliant with zoning, but that we've been using this area for parking, and it's an existing situation where it's unpaved at the moment. So we're formalizing that with lighting, paving, and drainage. The drainage will be, have a grit chamber and a water quality unit on it. And we're doing that on the existing lot as well. So that's gonna improve the water quality going into the detention basin, which we measured the groundwater table at 22 feet below the basin. So there's good permeability to the basin. And we're improving the water quality, as I stated. The second component is in this area here, we are proposing to pull back the slope so that there's more room for recreational activity in that area. So those are the two main components of the project. The parking lot itself, we have the emergency access way that's going out to the street, and we have the recreational field upgrade, which is just an expansion of that area. So on this plan here, I know it's hard to see, but there's an existing walkway that goes around here, and it comes in front of the detention basin. We're proposing to pull the slope back. This is a sloped area here. We're going to pull the slope back to 2:1 and run the walkway around the edges and behind the detention basin. That'll open this area up for recreational field use. I guess I should have mentioned that anybody that doesn't know, the Adirondack Club is a health club that has tennis and different activities, recreational activities. This plan here shows the drainage. The main drainage, there's two sets of double catch basins here. The flow goes to the center of the lot and then down to this basin and flows to the center of the lot and down to that basin, and then out through piping and the water quality unit to the detention basin. Having a little trouble with the computer. Bear with me, thank you. Here's a grading plan showing the 2:1 slope here, and an area here that was cleared to make this walkway grading work well. Seeing the drainage plan. There was a comment, I'm going to go through the beta comments, but I wanted to touch upon this plan here. This is the landscaping plan that shows the lighting. There was a comment about lighting spillover from this particular light here. We can move that light, but it's such a minimal intrusion onto the abutting property. I was looking for the board's feedback on that, and again, we'll go through that when I go through the comments from beta. That's pretty much it. You have any site plan questions before I move on to the beta comments?
I would say, we'll go to the board first. I would say wait until the beta comments, till Gary does a overall review as well, but for tonight, I think, get the board's feelings and the audience, if that being said, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Gary's done his review, correct?
Yes.
Some of it, but yeah, there's gonna be more to it.
Okay, I didn't know if there are any questions regarding.
Yeah.
regarding that. Yeah, it was my
So
understanding
before I bring Gary in, I'll hit the board, because that way Gary may pick up on some of them. So we'll go to Jen first.
Sure. Through the chair, there are a lot of families and small children traversing this parking lot, trying to get to the building or get to camp or wherever. Is there gonna be any change or in the overall flow of the site for traffic or parking in terms of entry and exit? I see now you have there's another exit, it says do not enter, but do you still imagine the main entrance is both an entrance and exit, and the other one's exit only? Is everything two-way? I guess I just wanna.
So if I may,
Yeah.
so the main entry and exit is going to stay as designed.
Mhm.
Adding the spaces, the aisles that come along with those spaces, the crosswalks will make the parking lot inherently much safer. The other entrance is, we put it in sort of as a best practice for emergency access, but we don't believe that that's something we're going to be using on a regular basis.
Okay, so everyone's still gonna.
Yeah, so based on the sight lines and things for our original entry,
Mhm.
we don't anticipate that changing. This just does what we needed to do post-pandemic with the changes to how our business has been operating.
Mhm.
This isn't we want to grow by X%. This is simply
Yeah.
managing the existing population in a much better way. We were forced to use some of this overflow. We want to make that right.
Mhm.
Yes,
Thank you.
on the plan, on the screen now, there's a
Yeah.
walkway that goes all the way around the parking lot.
Mhm.
And then we have this hatched walk that comes through the lot out to the sidewalk in front of the building. So we have this dedicated walkway here and then all the way around the lot itself. In
Yeah.
addition to the lighting, which will help with safety at the site, especially in the fall and winter. And we have these islands as well, but mainly the walkways are the big improvement in pedestrian safety.
Yeah, thank you. I think that adding the striped walkway from the current pedestrian way to get to the actual club through the site is great, and I think about Logan Airport and their striped walkway that goes through the middle of the parking lot being super helpful. I actually wonder if it should extend further in any way, but I'm glad to see that in the existing, starting at the existing parking situation. And I think any additional lighting or on that particular walkway or signage or anything to slow people down in those first couple aisles would go even further. My other question, just for now, and that's the first hearing, is I noticed you're eliminating basketball courts and you're flattening another area of the site. But is that new flattened recreational area of the site long-term intended just to be a grass area, or is there going to be any impervious that's going to be going there now or in the future?
We don't have any plans at the moment. We want to take space and simply transition it to an area that we believe is just better use, it's safer, and we intend, with the board's approval, we intend to use the fill from that area to manage the rest of the leveling and filling because of the elevations the way they are. We will actually have a net gain in total, and we just think it's a better area. It's away from the parking lot, it's away from some of the other activity, and it's safer. And just to your point, the crosswalk will go through the entire parking lot. 27 years ago, I sat on Inman Street and got this whole plan approved, and at that point in time, usage was different, cars were different, everything was different.
Yeah.
I really look forward to the ability to be able to make these enhancements.
Yeah.
I see the families, I'm on site every day, my family is, I see who comes in every day. We need to really make sure that we're doing those kinds of things, and this I think is an ideal way to do it.
Great, thanks.
Good. Good.
Just say that I'm a member of Adirondack Club, and I can say these improvements will be greatly appreciated. So your parking right now that you're showing is where you currently have the gravel kind of overflow lot, is that accurate? And how many spaces in that current overflow lot do you have?
About 58 if you combine that area marked as basketball court. Hasn't been used for basketball in a couple of years, but that is another 13.
And I think, Jen, your suggestion of extending that crosswalk pattern somehow through the entire parking area will be very helpful. And I don't know if looking at from your entrance doors through, I know it's not part of your project, but just considering how that existing parking lot currently works for people traversing through it, because I can tell you on more than one occasion it's been very difficult to get through there on a busy day.
If I may, so you're saying from our doors coming along the sidewalk that runs in front of the property, and then how it transitions into the parking lot itself?
Yeah, because the grayed out area, that's kind of your existing parking lot.
Yeah, so if I'm reading this correctly, and I'll let the engineer tell us, but that actually will take us directly to the hash marks at the ramp of the existing walkway.
Okay.
And it'll take us literally a straight shot through, right? So you referenced Logan Airport, so it is a straight shot through that, from that curb cut, or from that slope.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe just some signage or something, letting folks know that this is the preferred
I'm
path.
a big fan of signage, as you probably know, so you don't have to worry about signage. And if I may, and I don't mean to be sarcastic, but we also, because we're a membership-based business, as you know, we have the ability to communicate. This isn't a restaurant, this isn't Big Y. We have the ability to put a fence around our customers and communicate with them, and obviously this is something they want as well from the standpoint of although parking far away, I guess, is a problem even if you're on your way to a gym. But with that said, we want to make it safe, we want to make it correct.
Yeah.
And it's primarily a function of how our business has changed since the pandemic.
Yep.
And people's schedules, so that's what's driving this.
Yeah, and I just think, like Jen said, the small children going to the pool with their families and just making sure that you sufficiently mark out and tell people how to move about the site would be very helpful. And then I know you guys put in some EV chargers recently. Can you just maybe update those onto the plan as well? Show those on your, are they on there? I just don't see them.
They were on there.
Yeah, I don't see them on there, we could put them on there.
That would be helpful,
The-
just to
the-
have an updated plan that shows
Yeah.
exactly what's on your
Yeah,
site, I
there's
think.
3 of the level 3 chargers with 2 ports each.
No, I think that's great. Glad you added those in. And then you had mentioned there's some light spillage onto an abutting property. Do you want to just point that out to me where you're showing that on the plan?
It's on the last sheet of the plans. Do you have paper copies there?
Yeah, I unfortunately just don't have my glasses with me today, so I can't see what the light levels are.
I hear you.
I apologize. Bad reason.
And I think too, about that, and obviously getting the numbers important, that building is a daycare, so there's no nighttime operation or residency.
Mhm.
So assuming
Yes,
it's minimal,
yeah.
then, you know.
Yeah, it goes adjacent to the side of their building, which I believe is some sort of older warehouse.
Okay.
Along
So it's not a
that side
residential building,
is the
that's-
only part that's indicating these buildings.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a resident.
I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, sorry, you're not being able to see the number. Our chairman's telling me it's 3.2.
Was it like 3.2 spillage?
It was
Point
.1,
Oh.
and it's only out to right here.
Where is it,
So,
3.2?
right
At the edge of
here.
the parking lot, Greg.
Huh?
At the edge of the parking lot.
Was that the edge of the
And then
parking
you
lot?
have the
Okay.
sidewalk.
Well, and I folded my drawing over, that's what I came up with.
So
that.
it's this
Okay.
one particular light right here, and
Yeah.
it's only in this, I can zoom in here.
Oh, that's my fault then.
And the highest level is 0.1, you
Yeah,
said.
okay.
So it's I can't read it either, but it looks like point.
No, as long as it's not
Yeah.
above.
It's
Flaring
limited
over.
to the first 2
Okay.
rows here. It ends right here, and it's like .1 in the second row. So we have I mean, if you want it moved, we can move it, but
I
the,
don't think so.
I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
good.
okay.
That number. Yep.
Let's see, that was not it.
Okay.
So, actually,
I know there's more people that do that, but the building on my street's not. I mean, in terms of parking, I'm not worried about the zoning requirement at all. I know you're doing this to meet your business needs, and this is already gonna improve the situation. I would rather see that crosswalk go all the way through the site, plan east to west. And then I just have one question through the chair. Is this meeting the requirements for amount of trees per parking areas per our bylaws in terms of the?
yeah, there's a zoning bylaw
Yeah.
about having trees within 10 feet of the parking spaces or something to
Yeah,
that
it's like
effect.
every, there's certain like.
One per space.
Yeah,
one per-
exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that.
Yeah,
that
Yeah, we're
was-
meeting
I think there's 34 on here, and we need 30 if it's 1 per 10.
Okay, great, cool. Trees, okay.
Okay,
thanks.
good.
Yeah,
And there are many trees close, but not within the couple feet that are staying as well.
right, thanks.
Yeah, along the main roadway, if you don't know the site, there's like a berm that goes up and then down, and on that is wooded, and the street side of that wooded berm is gonna remain wooded, except for whatever you want cut back for the line of sight, but.
Right, but they serve a different purpose when they're interspersed with pavement in terms of like heat island effect and drainage and all that stuff versus being on the perimeter. So I just.
Yes, we'll have everything, we like trees too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good?
Yep.
You have one more or no?
I'm debating whether I do or not.
Okay, Jay?
You can come back to me.
I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. So the parking's a bit far from the building for my taste. So if you guys could just work something out with additional pedestrian access to the parking, that would really be my request. You know,
Yeah,
just something in
I've already
addition to
noted
this
that.
aisle here. People take the path of least resistance through parking lots, which means you have people cutting through cars, and someone's gonna get smoked. So just channelize the herd a little bit better, I guess.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah, people are dumb.
if I may respond though, we do have the ability to continuously communicate with people, not just through signage, but through email, electronic communication, signage inside, initiatives, things like that, and that is something we take seriously.
Good. That it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the spillage is not an issue for me. I think the adjacent use being commercial, not residential, doesn't prove a problem for me. I do just want to say, I think it's, and I don't think it was your intent, I think it's a little misleading to say that the path is an access to the building, I think is what you said, but the grade, as you get closer to that path, the walking path is much higher. No one's gonna walk down the slope until, because I think that path is elevated pretty much until you get to the driveway entrance, and then you'd have to walk across. So I don't think the path is really usable. It's great for walking, the kids run club, all that stuff, but to access the building, I just don't think it makes a ton of sense. The central walkway through the parking lot.
Maybe
Gary mentioned it.
Yeah, it was the.
Yeah,
it was
it's
the
not, it's not intended to be the walkway.
No.
But
Okay.
we can look at
Okay.
adding more
Okay.
to the rest of the parking lot to
Yeah.
cover some of the other corners that
Yeah.
someone may take a shorter path.
And I appreciate the realignment of it. My concern was that the walking path was gonna be where it is and you were gonna be crossing it twice, so that's great. And I'm all for the realignment of the topography change in the back there. That's kind of a nasty turn and the slopes are weird and it's a bunch of like weird brush in the back. So I think opening that up, I think is just a good enhancement for the site. So overall, I think addressing the, continuation of that parking easement, or I should say walkway access across the parking lot is my only concern there, and otherwise, I'm good.
Okay. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All my questions have been answered, so I'm not gonna
So Chris did his job.
prolong the
The
whole thing.
scheduler did it. Okay,
But
good.
thank you.
Just one quick question,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
What kind of curbing is proposed along the area adjacent to the walking path?
Whereabouts you talking about?
So you have your walking path and you have parking spots right up against a walking path where pedestrians will be walking. So I'm just, is there a curb or something proposed there?
I think it's in
Sure,
there as the Cape
stops
Cod
or
berm,
Yeah.
but that's why there's a gap between the lot and the spaces.
And how big
And-
is that gap? Because, gap or no gap, a car can just kind of, I know right now it's pretty
Encroach
flat.
into it, yeah.
And there's nothing blocking your car from driving right across that pathway.
Yep.
So I guess that's my question.
Parking stops or something. Yep.
I don't know how the
It
rest
is,
of the board
are
feels.
we correct, Peter, that it's
My
Cape Cod berm?
recollection, that is.
Yeah, so it is Cape Cod berm to be consistent with everything else on the property, but if there's something that people feel, because we have other areas where the track, we call it the track, is adjacent to parking, we have a Cape Cod berm, but if there's something that you feel is safer,
Just,
we
just
want
so
to say-
car doesn't encroach into
Yeah.
the passageway too
Okay,
much.
so we
that's
can-
all
we can address
purpose.
that.
Yeah. And I only had a few questions. Fire department, I saw made comment. Snow storage, I was looking for some snow storage or some more. How many trips in and out of the site on a daily basis? Has any calculations been done?
You talking about individual cars or?
Yeah, in and out. Yeah, how many enter, how many exit? If you don't have it, I'd like to know
I
that.
believe it's in our traffic study. Unfortunately, I did not bring it with me.
Okay.
Stand by, you guys provide it, I'll see that.
But it
Yeah,
should be in
that's
your
okay.
package.
Yep. Can you,
I know that Beta reviewed.
yeah, because
our
I'm gonna
traffic.
dip into Gary in a second for that. On your cover sheet, where you have the old, new merging into the old, is it possible to you have the new section clouded out? Can you cloud that whole section so I can get
We'll see
a
the
better
whole thing.
perspective of the entry exit? Because that's making me nervous with the amount of vehicles coming and going, and we're adding. I know the site's already being utilized, but now's the time to fix it if it needs to be fixed. As an example, the front entrance. So you have the new section clouded, right? Can you show that clouded area, how it's gonna intersect with with the existing entrance? How they're gonna tie together?
I mean, the driveway.
The driveway going out, you just isolated it, tie it all together so I can see it as a whole. I wanna make sure that front entrance is suitable for the additional parking. You may not be having that many now, but a second entrance may be needed if you're gonna push that many amount of vehicles in and out of this site. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, we can certainly do that. If
Yeah.
may I comment for just a second? So, again, this isn't a reaction to some level of growth. This is a reaction to consolidation of our members coming in times of the day which we weren't dealing with in the past. And so we do not anticipate a change in daily flow. We have the ability to do whatever we need to do, whether it's from a programming standpoint, from a membership limitation standpoint, whatever we need to do to ensure that we can handle what's coming on to the property.
Yeah.
Because as much as the parking lot is important, we really need to make sure that what we deliver inside the building is what the members want. So we'll absolutely isolate
Yeah,
that.
and I'm gonna
but-
want Beta, yeah, and I'm gonna want
Yeah.
Beta just to review to make sure the amount of trips in and out of the facility, that front entrance can handle it, that's all. Because you're going from, what, 50 spots now on the gravel lot to 160? Pretty substantial jump in the amount of traffic in and out of that lot,
So
so.
160 takes over a bunch of the ones in there, but yeah. it
Yeah,
goes
so
up
I
that
wanna
lot.
make sure it all works out internally, site to Chestnut Street, so everybody can get out safely. People do drive fast down Chestnut Street, and you're coming over the crest of the hill, so you just gotta make sure everybody gets in and out of the site safely. So that's why I'd like to see the shaded area, how it's all tied together, right out to Chestnut
So
Street.
the flow in essence.
Yep, if you could. So I guess, yep.
Sorry, one more before you go to
Sure.
Gary, Mr. Chairman. You might have just said it, I think I missed it. What's the setback from the parking lot, the curb, to the path? The walking path? My concern, while you look at it, my
Yeah.
concern is thinking about the concrete sidewalk that's up near the fence where the pool area is, and you back a pickup truck or something into it, the pickup bed sits over the sidewalk
In
by.
the trailer hitch.
Exactly, by a foot or two. So if you're backing a truck up over the walking path,
Yep.
you're impeding your walking path. So maybe just looking at
We'll look at
parking
that,
adjustments.
we'll look at that setback to make
Yeah.
sure there's enough space.
Yep.
One thing Mr. Chairman, I was looking at, you have a guardrail, it looks like, or a wood, is it wood guardrail on one side of that path? I mean, would it make sense, and I'm not sure what
To
the
flip-flop it?
purposes of putting the guardrail on that side, would it make more sense to have the guardrail on the inside between the walking path and the parking spots?
Guardrail does not protect against perpendicular strikes.
If you put a cable, steel cable.
Guardrail does not protect against perpendicular strikes.
What does that mean?
The traffic rated steel
You don't
cable.
hit a guardrail like this, you hit a guardrail like this.
Yeah, but this is a
Parallel
a
strike.
wooden,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
wooden
Yeah,
fence.
this is a
yeah.
guardrail.
The P will once again say that you do not use a guardrail to protect against a perpendicular strike.
Okay. Parking stops will work if not. It's just something you don't want, like
Just
Chris said.
distance. I think what we're hearing is just distance, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there's enough wiggle room in number of spots.
We'll look
Sure.
at the distance,
Yeah.
we can certainly move that guardrail.
Yeah.
We'll look at all of that, because obviously that's important to us as well.
It may not help with the flowing of the vehicles, but it'll
No.
help with the truck beds not
Yeah.
hanging over.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not the vehicle.
Exactly. Okay. So I know Gary's waiting patiently, so Gary, I know you're dying to get into this one. You want to give a brief overview of your thoughts?
Yeah. Couple of things. Number one, there is quite a bit of soil that's gonna be moved on this, site in terms of from the rear to the front to be able to, bring the grades up on the parking lot. I think that was one of the reasons why I commented on the light exposure, is that, when they do modify the grading, it's gonna be sitting probably, I think, 10 or 12 feet above that adjacent lot. And that was just one of the reasons why I commented, besides the fact that it really does need a waiver because there is spillage outside the lot, so it is in violation of the bylaws. But it's something that the board can act upon. Secondly, I agree with Mike on the utilization of the rainfall rates. I'd also like to see some test pit data relative to the basin. There was absolutely no information whatsoever in terms of how they're going to restore that basin. That basin's been there for quite a while, and I believe it was a 2008 design, and they're still utilizing the design criteria, and we'd like to see some updated design criteria associated with that. Secondly, there is a waiver that's going to be required, and it's going to be up to the board with the fact that all of the spaces that are being introduced are greater than 300 feet from the entrance. So that's really at the discretion of the board, but that is a waiver that should be being requested by the applicant. Dennis did comment, as he stated, even with the increase up to 302, they're still not bringing the site into compliance with the limits of the bylaw, with the plans of the bylaw for the 600 applicants. I think that's something the board should probably take a quick look at, The issue associated with the emergency entrance, we'd like to see it widened out to 24 feet. And we would almost like to see maybe utilized as a second entrance more so than as an emergency. I know Dennis didn't comment on it, but he did comment it to me as part of our conversation relative to the site, to be able to get it widened up so that it could become another exit point from the site, especially when you're now up to 300 spaces. I mean, during an event. He also talked about maybe even having some form of a contingency plan associated with event parking. Other than that, I did have quite a laundry list associated with the some of the other stormwater issues. Other than that, I'll bring it back to the board. Those are my major comments.
Thank you, Gary. I'll go to the audience. If anybody in the audience has any questions, just approach the mic and give your name and address, please. Like we were saying, this isn't the first and last. There'll be additional meetings.
Of course.
So.
My name is Michelle Kane, 17 Barron Road. I am the executive director of Franklin Children's School, which is directly next to the Adirondack Club. And while the lighting is fine, because like Chris said, we are closed at those hours, so that's not going to affect us. But I do have a few concerns because where the gravel is right now and where people have been parking and some pickup trucks and dump trucks, they've been backing up and it's getting extremely close to our fence, which is where our playground is. And so I've had to call the children back in with their teachers because I don't feel it's safe. So one of my main concerns, and sorry, but those guardrails, they need to be Jersey barriers or something. I take care of 100 children, and you guys have children at your school, at your preschool, and at your camps. And my main concern is those kids. And with 300 cars and trucks coming in and out, I know children love to watch that, and so they will be at that fence, but it's not safe. And, you know, I'm happy that you're going to expand your parking lot, and I think that's wonderful. And I know we've had a relationship where you've been using my lot in the summer for camp counselors. We've had an agreement, but I had no idea this was coming up to play. So my main concern is just really for the children. I know there's a walking path. We don't have a lot of trees between us, and so I'm just worried about the kids seeing that. Just cars, if they don't put it into park right away, or you hit the wrong pedal, you're right into my playgrounds, and that's very fearful. If I can ask for Jersey barriers or something to protect that, then I'm okay with this. I just want to make sure that both lots are safe and that everybody is safe. Those are my main concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Offer potential solution, bollards, maybe an option there? Guardrail, metal guardrail? No.
Did you not hear?
Yes. Perpendicular strike.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm trying. Come on.
It's a short week, don't make me. Bollard would be a logical option there, right? Because it's a much less infrastructure than,
What was the overall length? What was the overall length that
it'd be
we're
pretty
talking?
significant
I know, that's what.
guardrail, and it really wouldn't work with the site, but if you put a bollard smack in the middle of every parking lot, and you give it a solid concrete foundation, you're not gonna.
Can you guys take a look at that too?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just didn't know the overall
Yeah,
distance.
23 bollards is a
Yeah.
heck of a lot
Yeah.
less, financial impact on a wall of Jersey barrier.
Maybe some additional plantings.
Yeah, something to look
We
at.
can add
Good.
something to that slope.
Anybody else in the audience have any questions, comments? You said this is gonna get continued, so you'll have an opportunity. So, everybody good for now? July 28th, give you enough time to make some corrections and maybe come back with an update?
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense for everybody? So, Amy, they're good?
That works.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue 800 Chestnut Street till July 28th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Square bollard.
Anybody have any general business? No? Just want to wish everybody a happy, safe 4th of July.
You too,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Yes. Don't use homemade fireworks, as the state of Massachusetts.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopped.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.